the expectations of many on your shoulders. You cannot afford to worry about little details. Such trivial matters can be safely left to me.
This is what you want from me, right?
Yes. However, the dirty work is my job.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Night Out channel. Welcome back to the series where we're counting down the top Dynasty Warriors characters as of the latest game. Starting off the top 15, coming in at number 15, we have one of the most menacing characters in the game, Jia Chong. Jia Chong is a military commander who served in Wei and later Jin. He is Jia Kui's son, and his abilities were recognized by Sima Zhao when the former was able to correctly deduce Zhuge Dan's displeasure with the Sima family and later Zhang Hui's hidden agendas. He is infamously known for giving the order to strike down the Emperor Cao Mao. So before we jump into how Jia Chong has changed within the series since his playable debut in Dynasty Warriors 8, let's take a look at the popularity polls to see why Jia Chong is going to start off our list for the top 15 Dynasty Warriors characters. In the first popularity poll, consisting of about 75,000 total votes, we have Jia Chong coming in at number 26 with 1,141 of those votes. In the second popularity poll, he's going to impressively jump up to the 11th position, and then in my personal rankings, he's going to unfortunately drop back down to the 32nd position. Jia Chong is the lowest among the three lists because I particularly didn't really favor Jia Chong. I really like his character and his personality and what he represents within the game for the Jin Kingdom. But for me personally, where the character lacks at is his weapon style, and when we jump into his weapon style, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's why he's personally a little lower for me, because I couldn't really get into his weapon style when he first became a playable character, and then when they jumped to the next game, I didn't like the new weapon that they gave him either. But before we talk about his changes from Dynasty Warriors 8 to Dynasty Warriors 9, let's talk a little bit more about Jia Chong for people who don't know. So Jia Chong is a very interesting character. He's one of the only characters in the game that emits a cruel and mysterious aura that has never been seen before in the series. Jia Chong is a calm but cryptic individual known for his sincere loyalty towards the Sima clan. However, he has no qualms about employing ruthless measures to gain results in both warfare and politics. Others fear him for his willingness to execute traitors in cold blood, though he views it as a necessary evil to help facilitate the land's unification. It's very evident to see this personality of Jia Chong throughout the games, and that's probably why so many people are drawn to him, because Jia Chong does all these, quote-unquote menacing and evil things, but it's out of good intention of what he believes is necessary in order to help create a land of peace. Pragmatic by nature, Jia Chong believes that rulers should be cruel enough to make difficult choices for the greater good. Now, with his personality, you would think that Jia Chong would have a close relationship with someone like Sima Shi, but it turns out he actually has a particular fondness of Sima Zhao. We'll discuss more about that relationship towards the relationship part of the video, but it's very interesting and it's a very odd relationship that they have, because Jia Chong is literally like the darkness to Sima Zhao's light. Jia Chong is someone who works in the shadows, away from prying eyes, and he's one of the most, again, menacing, cunning, discerning characters within the game. He's very unique. No other character in the game is like Jia Chong, and I can see why that, is a big appeal for most people. Within history, I believe Jia Chong wasn't as ruthless as the games make him out to be. He definitely went about certain things more merciless than other characters within history. However, because of his ability to discern people's personalities like Zhuge Dan and being able to relay quality information to Sima Zhao, it earned him the trust, and he became very highly regarded by Sima Zhao. So even when he infamously ended up executing the current Wei Emperor at the time, Sima Zhao ends up sparing Jia Chong, even though he executed the other party member who was responsible for the death of the Emperor. Jia Chong is a very interesting character in the game, again, a very unique character, definitely stands out. I can see why a lot of people are drawn to him. Let's go ahead and jump into how Jia Chong has changed within the series. He's not going to have too big of changes because he's only been in 2 different games, but I believe they're noticeable enough to where people who really enjoyed him in the 8th game might see a couple of fallacies with him in Dynasty Warriors 9. With that being said, we're going to start off with Jia Chong's appearance, and his appearance character within both the games is pretty good. I honestly liked him more in Dynasty Warriors 8 than Dynasty Warriors 9, but he maintains that like dark, black look, that, in the shadows kind of look. And in both games, he looks pretty intimidating. In both games, he looks pretty menacing. So I can't complain about the way he looks. I just think that the look for him in Dynasty Warriors 8 was a little bit better than in Dynasty Warriors 9, but I can't complain too much about the way he looks. He still looks like that, again, menacing, mean character that you really don't want to get on the bad side of. Now moving on to his weapon style. So for me, this is where the character falls because I thought his weapon style was cool. Throwing axes in the first game was really cool, but I just particularly didn't have a lot of fun with the weapon style. The Musou attacks in both the games were really cool, but I just didn't particularly like throwing axes. I don't know what it was. I didn't feel like they were that good. I don't know. I just didn't really get drawn to them, perhaps the way other people did. And then in Dynasty Warriors 9, he gets the shooting blade spear, which a couple of other characters already have. And it's an okay weapon. It's decent. It fits Jia Chong for who he is, but it wasn't a weapon that I particularly enjoyed. And that's where the character kind of falls for me. He's not a character I would jump to play just for his personality. I want to play someone that I enjoy, playing with them. And Jia Chong is just one of those characters that I never really enjoyed playing. I never really liked the throwing axes, and I definitely don't like the shooting blade spear. While they're both interesting weapons, it's just not a weapon style particularly for me, and that's why Jia Chong fell a little lower, because it's just not, like, I wouldn't run to play him just on his weapon style alone. I would definitely play other characters first before jumping to play Jia Chong. The throwing axes really fit him. It really, adds to that intimidating presence, and some of the cutscenes he has with his weapon and executing people. Very intimidating, very menacing, definitely adds to that character. I don't mind him having the throwing axes, it's just not a weapon that I particularly favor. Now moving on to his voice acting, probably one of the most prominent pieces of the character, because his voice acting in Dynasty Warriors 8 was really, really good.
One imbecile instigating another. Nothing more than that.
He sounded like a character that just had that, menacing, villainous, evil undertone, but he was able to balance it out by the way he articulated about what needed to be done. He wasn't an evil character per se in terms of like he's going to betray Sima Zhao and become, the ruler of the world, but it was an understanding of like these things have to be done. Again, he's the shadow to Sima Zhao's light, and he's there to basically always make sure that Sima Zhao is aware of the reality of the situations that are happening. And I always like that about Jia Chong. The voice actor did a really good job displaying that characteristic of Jia Chong, and I believe that's why a lot of people end up liking the character. Again, he's able to display that uniqueness that Jia Chong was really built to become, and I really liked it. Now in Dynasty Warriors 9, he gets a different voice actor.
I'm sure I have enough people watching over me. Can you kindly stop with the obvious act?
And I want to say at first, at face value, when I first heard it, I didn't particularly like it. But I would say it grows on you after a little bit. I think it's not too bad. It almost feels like it's a little forced in terms of like trying to make him sound menacing and evil. That's why at first I didn't really like the voice acting in Dynasty Warriors 9, because it sounded a little forced. Regardless, I still think it fit Jia Chong pretty well. You grow to like the voice acting in Dynasty Warriors 9. Now moving on to significant battles, his relationships, and his death. We're going to start off with his death because it doesn't happen until, after the game's end, like a while after the game's end, and he just becomes ill. He becomes critically ill at a certain time, and he passes away, and that's pretty much how Jia Chong passes away. Now moving on to his significant battles. So the only two main battles he has within the game is the battle or the rebellion of the Emperor, Cao Mao, and then the final battle at Chengdu. And then there's one battle outside of the game that they mention, but they don't particularly, they never go over. And that's the battle of Jianye, where the Wu Emperor at the time surrenders to Jin, and the land gets united under Jin. I'm gonna start off with Jianye because it is not in the games, and the reason that it's so important, not just because of Jin, conquering China under their name, but also because within history, Jia Chong was actually opposed to the current Jin Emperor, Sima Yan, from attacking Wu. He was against the campaign in its entirety because he didn't think that Wu would have been conquerable. When Wu ended up falling, and he was obviously wrong about his prediction, he felt pretty ashamed about it, but the current emperor at the time just pretty much relieved him of that shame and was like, it's totally fine. And he even rewarded him for what he perceived to be, Jia Chong's contributions during that campaign. Now I'm jumping back into the significant battles within the game. The first one, it's probably his most significant battle, is the rebellion of the Emperor. It's a pretty simple battle. You just, kill the forces of the Emperor, and then there's a couple of cutscenes or events around Jia Chong executing the Emperor. Now, according to history, it was Jia Chong and an officer named Cheng Ji. So like I mentioned before, there was another person that was involved in the execution of the Emperor, and Sima Zhao within history actually had Cheng Ji executed. But because of the favor and the regards that he had to Jia Chong, he didn't end up killing him. He wanted to keep him around. However, because of this, Jia Chong's reputation among the people was one of regicide, which means he would always be remembered as somebody who killed the Emperor. But a very important battle for Jia Chong, because throughout the games he helped Sima Zhao realize the reality of the situation, again being that darkness and the light, making sure that Sima Zhao knows that these things can't be avoided and you have to face them as a leader. Jia Chong is there to clean up any of the dark or dirty work that needs to be done. But at the end of the day, he's making sure Sima Zhao knows what needs to be done and what are the consequences for certain people acting a certain way. At this point in time, the Emperor has instigated so many rebellions that it could not be ignored anymore. He had to get rid of him. As reluctant as Sima Zhao was, he followed Jia Chong's advice, but when it came to when Sima Zhao had to execute the Emperor and finish the job, Jia Chong is there to do that for him. And then finally moving on to the Battle of Chengdu, which is very important because that's the fall of Shoes, the end of the game. And even when the game ends, Jia Chong is still working within the shadows to make sure that things get done. That's what its ending points toward, directing people in the shadows, getting things done that needs to be done that perhaps Sima Zhao is unable to do himself. Because of their relationship, Sima Zhao is there checking on him, making sure that he doesn't get in a situation where he's compromising himself or anything like that. And that's really a statement to their friendship and the relationship they have. We're just going to go right into his relationships because I'm already kind of talking about it. So his most significant relationship within the game is going to be with obviously Sima Zhao. It's a very odd relationship because these two are complete opposites. Jia Chong, the complete opposite of Sima Zhao, but he understands, he sees his potential in Sima Zhao that he wants to bring out, and he wants to make sure that he's always aware of the reality of situations. I gotta respect that as a character because you gotta have people like that who are willing to tell you the truth about things and aren't going to shy you away from the truth. And I think within the games, at least, Sima Zhao really respects that in Jia Chong because he can always count on him to tell him the truth. And I really like seeing their relationship. I think that's always really cool to see someone like Sima Zhao who's positive, optimistic, and very light character, very, good character. Having someone like Jia Chong he can rely on to get things done for him that he can't particularly handle. And I really like the relationship that they have. It's a really cool one. It's very unique. I've always enjoyed seeing it within the games. Now, talking about his last two minor, significant relationships he had is with Wang Yiwanji and Sima Shi. Minor relationships because of how close they are to Sima Zhao, the understanding of how Sima Shi rules, and trying to make Sima Zhao, I wouldn't say like similar to him, but making him aware of why he's doing these things and why it's necessary for Sima Shi to be the way he is. So they have a minor relationship just because of the relationship that they both have with Sima Zhao, and then a similar relationship to him and Wang Yiwanji because, again, it's just making Sima Zhao become the best version of himself. He's going to, and he is the leader of the Jin Kingdom. Both of these characters want to see him become the best version of that, and I would say that Wang Yiwanji's more of the lighter support, good support that Sima Zhao needs, and then Jia Chong is there to fill in all the dark spaces. But that's pretty much all I have for Jia Chong here. Again, one of the most menacing characters in the game. He's starting off the top 15 popular characters in the game. I can definitely understand and see why. He's a very unique and interesting character. Hopefully they build on his story a little bit more. Maybe we'll see more after Chengdu. We can see more of his affairs and things like that. But the only thing I don't like about the character is his weapon style per se, and maybe the voice acting took a little bit of a dive, but other than that, the character is really well constructed, and it's nice to see different types of characters being introduced within the game. And I personally don't have anything against Jia Chong. That's pretty much all I have for Jia Chong here, guys. Let me know what you guys think about him down below. Are you guys fans of him? Do you guys like his axes? All that good stuff. But that's all I have, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, definitely appreciate a like, comment, or subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah.